Today what we are going to learn Lab 10 JPA One-to-One. That is a Java Persistence AP Application Programming Interface. We are going to use the technology and mainly we are going to use OIRM, that is Object Relational Mapping, one-to-one. That is a bidirectional relationship. Today we are going to do. What is the first step? First step, we are going to create Java application of project name Lab 10. Okay. First I will close the old one to avoid confusion. File, new project, Java with and category and Java application, simple application, Lab 10. Okay, what is on the main class name is JPA One-to-One test. We are going to give the main class name is JPA One-to-One test. Right. Click finish. Once click finish, immediately you can see that it will load the main class, that is JPA One-to-One test, and it is having only one library, that is it is added the JDK 11, which is available in this system. This library only support this one. Okay, now the next one is we are going to create the entity class name called professor. Okay, right click, new entity class. The name is professor and the package name is entities. Okay, lab 10 dot entities. Click next. Already by default it is checked create persistent unit because we don't have any persistent.xml file. That's the reason create persistent unit. And we'll accept default name. What is the persistent unit name? Lab 10, that is your project name. PU persistent unit for identification. Now there are two database connection available. We are going to select the second one, JDBC localhost. That is the same machine. Sun app serve samples. Okay. What is the generation type? Create. Click finish. Once if you click finish, immediately it will add the required libraries, and it will create what the entity class name professor. It implements serializable interface and it is having one primary key because you know that if you create entity class, that class must have one column, that is a primary key, and it is unique value. That's why it is created the primary key with id annotated. Okay, that means id annotated means it is referred as the primary key. And also it is null, it is generated by, it will automatically generated, it will generate the value, it is not going to collect any input from the user. Okay, now this is done. Now open the browser, already it's open. Professor Java entity class and add the properties first name. Okay, I'm going to give the first name last name as string, age as int, salary as double. Now I'm going to take all these properties. First name I'll make one small change, going to put a capital. Okay, what is the first name? I'm going to use capital. Private for naming convention only I change this one. Private string first name, next string, this also I made as last name of the professor, first name last name. Private integer age. Okay, last one is double. Private double salary. Now I added four property in this professor entity class. That means this four property, obviously it is going to generate the four column in the professor table in the database. What are the four column? That is the first name, it is obviously varchar, because why here data type is string, the data type is varchar. Here last name in the entity class in the database table it is varchar. Age here is int, there integer. Uh, Salary here double, there it may be float. We'll see. Now after that, what is the next one? Generate getter and setter for the professor attribute. Just we added four attribute, right or not? Now we are going to add getter and setter Alt Insert, press Alt Insert, select the getter and setter, select all the field. Obviously it will done. Okay, all the field done. Now what is the last one? We are going to update the toString method, because here only id only here, but after adding toString, after adding we address also, because we are going to add address also. Therefore this step I am going to repeat later. I am going to not repeat, I am going to do later. Now what is the next entity class name called address? That means here we are going to create two entity class. One is professor, another one is address. We are going to map this professor and address entity class one to one. Therefore, every professor is having only one address. Therefore, one address mapped to only one professor mapped to only one address. That is a point. That is the thing we are going to learn. That is one-to-one relation. One professor have one address. One address may map to only one professor. But only one way we are going to do. Now, what are the properties here? We are going to add what are the attributes? That is a string, street number, building number, city, country, and region. Okay, now this is the address. Already I copied. This is the entity class. I am going to create entity class in the same package. That's why I select right click in the same package. Entity class. Name is address. Package already selected. Since I right click the entity class, obviously it is going to create the class in the entities package. Click finish, because already database is mapped, the persistent, everything okay. Click finish. The address is created. Now we are going to do the same thing. What we are going to do? Okay, this is string. Street number is integer. Private. Okay, street number is integer. Okay, next building number also integer. Building number also integer. City is a string, because I am going to collect the name of the city. It will come in the string. Next, country is a string, the country name. And last one is region, that is Albertina region, Lofa region, Muscat region, like that. That is also string. Now generate getter and setter. Better we'll repeat this one after adding this professor. Map the professor. I'm going to map the address with this address one to the professor. That is one to one. This is annotated one to one. Obviously, we must import the one to one. It is available in each package. Persistent one to one mapping. One to one means it will map to that means mapped by address. It is address object. It is mapped to the professor object. Obviously, it is done. Now add the getter and setter. I'm going to add getter and setter. Alt insert getter and setter for all, including the professor. Finally, I'm going to update the toString. Why? Because here this toString going to print only ID. Since we added the 5 attributes, I want to print all the details. For example, toString select. What are the things you want to print? I want to print ID, street number, building number, city, country, region, and process. Generate. Now, if you call the object of address, obviously it will print the address mapped to the respective professor. Now, same thing we are going to repeat in the browser, but here we are going to map one-to-one mapping with the address. Okay, now here add the property address. Yes, obviously this step, and map with the professor. and also add the getter and setter for the address. Okay, one to one, and see that the cascade type is persist that we learned in the lecture. I'll discuss it later. Now this one is address, done. Private address, it is done. Now you can add getter and setter for the address if you want to access outside. Now alt insert getter and setter, only one pending, that is address. ToString also I am going to update. I'm going to update the toString. That's why I recently deleted, because once I select toString directly in the insert code, I can get all the detail. Generate. Now I'll print the first name of the professor, last name, age, salary, address, everything will be printed. Just address means it will print the whole address object. Okay. Now we are going to see what is the next step. Now open the JPA test, one-to-one test. We are going to insert. That means what, from this main class we are going to add the address and add the professor, and finally we are going to check both is this linked or not, that is mapped or not, one-to-one mapped or not. For this, first we need to add 2 point. That means if you are going to insert or the modify the data, the table that is in the database, you need entity manager. For entity manager, how you can create? With the help of entity manager factory. Entity manager factory, how you can create? uh, Using what? Create entity manager, you must tell what is the name of the entity, that is persistent unit. After that, you can create the object of entity manager with through entity manager factory. Now this to actually, this is what is the role of entity manager? To manage the data in the database, manage the table in the database. That means what? You can add, insert, delete, everything is possible, provided you have the entity manager. Through entity manager only you can do anything. For example, now I am going to add the address. Add the address data 1. What is address data 1? Now here I add the address is city, or country is Oman, street number is 311, and the building number is 11. Okay, like that I added. You can change zip code, everything as per the thing. Okay, now set city, everything. Why it is not available? We'll check. What it is giving error. I cannot find the symbol. We'll check. Just to save it, because after adding the getter and setter, I am not saved this address class. That's why it is giving error. Now all error removed. Now I added one address directly to the address table. Okay. After that, I am going to add one professor and then set the address also. Okay. What is the professor name? Is Saif. First name is Saif. Second name is Muhammad. Age is 29. Salary is 500. Now we set the address object, because already we create the address and we added everything. Now that address object added to the professor. Alright. Now what is the last step? We are going to begin the transaction and commit the transaction. Okay. Now I'm going to print the object of the system.out.println, that is the professor. Println. Also, I'm going to print the object of address also. Okay, just remove address. That means toString. What you write the code in the toString, that is going to execute. Okay, now save it. Now what is the last step? Right click the library, add the library, click add library, select Java DB driver. Why? Because we are going to use Derby database. Okay, go to the project. There is library. Library, it is available only the persistence and your JDK, because we need to add what? Java database driver. Just add library. Immediately it will add it. Jar file of deadbe client and deadbenet. Now just to click, obviously if you click this button it will run the main class. What is the main class here? JPA one-to-one test. If there is no error, we will get the answer directly. Yes. Now see that I have put to professor. Professor ID is 501. Name is first name is Saif. Second name is Laris. Last name is Muhammad. Age is 29. Salary is 500. Now see that I set address. Just I add the address to the professor. Now obviously what is address? Address inside it is printing. See that. Answer address inside is printing. What is address? Street number 311. What I added in the address, right? Building. See, actually in the to string I print the object of address. That is, this is the object of address, and the professor is null. Why it is null? Because address class you mapped by the address. Therefore, it is null. You will check now in the database what happened. We'll see. Go to the services, uh, right click, connect because already connected. Because what is our database? Sun app serve samples. Expand app table. Where is professor? This is professor. Right click view data. You can see that ID number 501. The age is 29. First name is Saif. Last name is Muhammad. Salary is 500. ID is mapped. Address ID is 501. Now go to the services again. Check the address, the ID number 502. It is available. Okay, therefore, successfully it is added in the table of address and the professor, and also linked. Once I print the professor object, it will print the address. Once I print the address, it will print the address what is stored in the database table. Thank you very much. I will see the next lab.